All right, perfect. So as Derek said, my name is Sarah Smith. I am the visit coordinator here at Chadron State College. I've been working for CSC now for about 6 years, in and out of admissions roles. So it's a very exciting day every day that I get to come in and just kind of help change students' lives. You know, whether they're 17, 18-year-olds coming into it, having no idea what they're doing, or maybe they're a 20-year-old who has been through it for a couple years like you guys. So very, very fun. Just another couple of fun facts about me so that you guys know I'm a real human being. I used to work for Walt Disney World, so I got to create magic for people every single day. That's what I did before I came to Chadron State. I am a big boy band fan, so NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, just go ahead and bring it on. And if you put chocolate in front of my face, I'm gonna eat it. Okay, so that's just a couple little fun things about me. Since I am a visit coordinator and the campus visit is just completely where I live, I'm gonna go ahead and kick things off. I wanna take you guys on a little bit of a journey during my portion of the presentation. So we're gonna go on a voyage. We're gonna roam, we're gonna adventure, and we're gonna discover a little bit. All right, so just kind of starting off with a voyage. You know, things are a little bit different. You know, you guys, potentially your senior year of high school, you went on a few campus visits, right? You got to check things out. You were 17, 18 years old. There was a lot of things that were important to you about that campus visit. Maybe it was seeing what the dorm rooms looked like. Maybe it was checking out the cute boys and girls that were sitting in the cafeteria. You know, there's a lot of different things that interest you. Now you're a transfer student. You've been through it all already. There is so many things that you want to look at. Well, maybe it's not just on campus. You know, I would challenge you to look around the town, look around the local area. You know, maybe you're an outdoorsy person. Maybe you want to check out the hiking trails, the hunting, the fishing in the area. Are you a shopper? Maybe check out some of the different places that you can get some cute new shoes. Are you a foodie like me? Huge foodie. Go check out all of the restaurants in the area, all right? This is honestly not just about the campus anymore because you are more than likely going to be a member of the community as a transfer student. So just really dive in. I just challenge you to really do that. Now, the second piece I want to head into is the roaming part. Roaming around a campus. I mean, campus tour, that's kind of the main reason why you even went on the voyage in the first place, right? So what I want you to do when you are out on tour is make sure that you see every possible thing that you wanted to see, everything that you wanted to accomplish that day. You know, are you big into studying? Maybe you're going into like something like health professions or something where you just need to really crack down in the books. What does that library look like? You know, can you see yourself studying there? Walk by the coffee shop during your tour. Pop your head in there. Is that a place that you can hang out with your friends? Are you going to be living on campus? Go in and see those dorms. Is that a place where you can see yourself sleeping for the night? You know, make sure that you have all of the essentials covered. Another thing that I want to talk about with that is the campus tour and that guide. You know, here at Chadron State, we call them student ambassadors. Now, more than likely, they are at least a sophomore or above. Most of my staff here at CSC is going to be juniors and seniors. So they're kind of like you know, a transfer student that has been through it for a couple years, they're coming in, pick their brain and see what it's like. What are the important parts of campus to them? What do they do for fun? Ask them all those questions and make sure that you get every single answer that you went there to get. Adventure. This is where you go and meet with your academic program, okay? Campus tours are amazing, they're great, but again, you've been through it before. You need to really focus in on that major. The degree is the reason why you're there. You gotta complete that thing, right? So go ahead and sit down with a faculty member, sit down with a real human being in that department. Ask them, you know, what are the highlights of your program? Why should I pick your college over a different one? What makes you unique and special? You as a person, you have specific needs. You know, there might be one college that does it really well, and there might be another college that does it really well. Which one is going to spark your interest? You know, maybe you need to go visit more than one college. that's totally fine. Make sure that you're getting all of those needs met. Now, kind of the last thing that I want to really talk about for my portion of this presentation is discovering each college campus that you're going to. Every single place does it different. You know, if you're looking at a 2-year school, awesome, they do it different. You're looking at a university, they do it different. State college, like myself, everybody has a little bit of a different way of doing campus visits. I want to kind of run over the things that you would see at Chadron State if you were to choose to come on a visit here. So we've got our personalized campus visits. Now, most schools, because of COVID, this is a thing that maybe is happening and maybe isn't. So dive into that and see which one works for you. But if it's a face-to-face visit, you know, you're going to take a student guided walking tour that we kind of talked about earlier. You get to see inside of residence halls, meet with faculty advisors, eat lunch in the dining hall. That's a big part, again, that food thing. Gotta love that food thing. But another thing for transfer students that we do here at CSC is we make sure that you do sit down with somebody that is in our financial aid department. Luckily, they're called the START office. So they cover financial aid, they cover scholarships, they cover loans. They are also advisors that can help schedule you into classes. Every transfer student that comes here gets to sit down with one of those individuals, and we make sure that we go over every little thing and every detail. It's always a good idea as a transfer student, no matter which college you're visiting, to bring an unofficial transcript with you. That way, when you do sit down with those advisors, they can go through and really know what they're talking about. Now, another thing with COVID, we had to really kind of add in a live hosted virtual visit. We've been doing a little bit of this in the past, but since a lot of people are not able to leave their homes or they're maybe kind of afraid to travel across the state, whatever it might be, we've got some live hosted virtual visits. What that means is you register for it online, and then we're going to send you a link to a Zoom, sort of like this, honestly. You're going to get to interact with at least 2 student ambassadors on my staff, and we lead you through a tour that is on your screen, but it's really great because our students get to guide you through it. You know, they get to tell you their experiences and put their spin on it. Maybe you're a student athlete. I'm probably going to ask a couple of my staff members that work for me that are student athletes as well, so that they can make that connection with you. You know, maybe you're a certain major. I'm going to bring somebody in with that same major to talk to you as well. So we really personalize it to each individual that comes onto that live hosted virtual experience. Now, we also have on-demand virtual tours, which means that you just click a link and you go on in there anytime and you get to tour our entire campus. Most schools have done something like this, so be on the lookout for that as well. But what's really nice about this is you being a transfer student. Maybe you have little kiddos at home. You know, you put the kiddos to bed at like 8 o'clock at night. Well, now it's too late, right? It's too late to jump on a live hosted virtual visit with most schools. So jump on yourself. You know, tour campus at your own convenience. That is so, so helpful. And if you had questions later on, you could always reach out to the admissions office, whatever campus it might be, and ask them the questions that you need to ask. So that's all I have for my portion. I'm going to hand it over to Miss Rachel now.
Hi guys, I am Rachel Crackemeyer with Southeast Community College. I'm actually located on our Beatrice campus, and we have 2 different campuses in Lincoln and 1 in Milford as well. So I'm really excited to be here and talk to you guys about the importance of a college visit. And my suggestion is do a bunch of them. Go really see and see what's out there, what every school you're interested in has to offer. And you don't necessarily have to visit every single one. If you find the one that you fall in love with and you just know, that's great. That's the whole purpose. Sarah, will you hit the next slide for me? And go ahead and go to the next. So here's kind of, I did a lot of brainstorming in this. And at SCC, we really preach that getting out there and visiting several different campuses will really give you a good idea, whether it's by process of elimination, or you walk on a campus and you are just like, oh my gosh, I absolutely love this, and I thought I wouldn't, type of thing. You could have reluctantly gone, maybe went with some friends or during a high school field trip type of thing, and you thought it was going to be the worst one ever, but you loved it. That's the purpose of those visits. That's why we say get out there, go see them, because you really will not know what a campus is like until you visit it. Walking around the campus, seeing inside of the building, seeing the students walk around, and the big groups of friends as they're chatting about the intramurals that they were participating in last night. Big ones happening right now on our campus are sand volleyball. They go out a couple nights a week and they're playing sand volleyball, and it's a big event. So seeing stuff like that happening in real time will really help you decide if you love that campus or not. And I could not agree with Sarah more. I'm a big food lover as well. So going out and exploring the community that the college is a part of, and just kind of checking out what they have for shopping, and, do they have Starbucks, or is it scooters? Or, is it Starbucks the end all for you? I was a Starbucks fan to begin with, and thought that scooters was this really, probably a cheap, not so great knockoff type of thing. Turns out scooters is what we have to offer, and big fan, absolutely love it. And I wouldn't change it. So you just really got to go out, you got to explore. And Sarah, will you go to the next slide for me, please? And then, like Sarah talked about too, when you're on campus, just ask questions. That's the one thing that we cannot emphasize enough, is really figure out what it is that you want and ask questions around that. Maybe you're looking to see if a school offers internships or work study opportunities or research opportunities. So you may end up picking a school based on what opportunities are there for you later in life. I've worked with several students over the years throughout my career, and I've actually only worked in higher education for about 2 years now. Previously, I worked in employment and training. So I worked for the Department of Labor, essentially. I ran a grant-funded program. And in that program, my job was to help people find their career. And a lot of times that meant going back to school. And those were a lot of things that those individuals that I worked with were looking for. What kind of opportunities can this school provide me later in life? What type of opportunities will that school in that area offer me? A lot of times people will think it has to be a very urban school to have a lot of opportunities. But a lot of students love where they come from and they want to go back home. And that doesn't mean that the school right next to you, maybe in Milford, Nebraska or Beatrice, Nebraska, isn't the right school for you. It could be exactly that, because you are getting an education that is basically founded on the way you were raised. So staying home can offer you a lot of options as well. A lot of the questions that you probably have could be best answered by faculty in your academic area. So if you have a couple different interests and maybe you're trying to decide, do I want to go pre-health or do I want to be a teacher type thing. So you could essentially have 2 different program visits and ask those faculty those questions. Why did you choose to do what you do? Why did you become a teacher in your specific area? What inspired you or motivated you to do that? And a little bit about my experience. I chose ultimately my career route based on one instructor that had a huge impact on me. Everything he taught, I loved. I couldn't get enough of. So then I started taking more classes. And I loved it. I couldn't stop. My biggest area was marketing. Loved it, loved designing things, loved talking to people, all of that kind of stuff. So you may meet someone throughout your journey in finding a college that will spark that passion in you. That's what that campus visit is all about. And then like Sarah said too, just visualize yourself on that campus. One thing I usually say to students is, for all of you girls out there, you're not going to buy a pair of shoes without trying them on, right? Guys, you're not going to go to a dealership and buy a pickup that you didn't test drive. Why would you do that with a school? Why would you do that with what is going to get you your lifelong career? You wouldn't. So go out there, test drive a few schools, you know, try them out, see if they're for you. If you know some friends staying there, stay with them in the dorms. It's the best way to get that behind the scenes type stuff. Okay, Sarah, will you go to the next slide for me, please? So just to kind of talk a little bit about how SCC does our campus visits. Now, keep in mind, we are a community college, so we are a little different than Sarah at Shadron and Tom at UNK because we have 2-year degrees. So a lot of our students will transfer to a 4-year school to get the bachelor's degree. And a lot of the students will just get their 2-year degree and go to work. So we kind of have a double purpose with our campus visits. It could be students retraining. It could be a 40-year-old individual that wants to get a different career. So they're coming to the campus to check it out, how to, you know, figure out how to get started, all of that type of stuff. It could be a 17, 18, 19-year-old that's getting started in college for the first time. Could be their first campus visit ever. We tailor our visits to meet every student in every demographic situation. So first of all, like Sarah talked about, we do have tour guides that are student ambassadors. So those are our current students. Mine on staff typically are at any point in their academic journey. They could be a first semester student. They could be somebody that has already been here for 2 years and doing their second degree with us. So it kind of varies, which is super nice because then they all provide a different perspective when giving tours. But like Sarah said as well, ask them all the questions because there's no better way to get your questions answered than from a student who is going through it right now. So on our campus tours, you get to see inside our classrooms, you get to see inside our labs, our student center, campus store, residence halls, the cafeteria, the gym, fitness, and weight rooms. You get to see everything. With that, you actually also get to meet with the program faculty or the program director themselves. So if you're interested in welding or a healthcare program or an ag program, you will actually sit down and meet with those faculty. And the purpose behind that is not only to get your questions answered and learn about the academic program itself, but also to learn about the internship opportunities and the career information that ultimately you're after. So you want to make sure that the coursework and the internship opportunities will correlate to what you want to do in the end. Because if the coursework and the type of internship that you want to go for is not available through that program, then maybe you need to look at a little bit different of a program. So those are great meetings to kind of talk that through and be prepared, come with questions. You'll also meet with admissions, which would be someone like myself, where we will talk about the ins and outs of starting at Southeast Community College and what that looks like throughout your time with us. So again, at a community college, your ultimate goal may be to get a bachelor's degree. So we're going to want to talk about where you see yourself after SCC. And that's not something you have to know right away, but that helps us better help you in that transition. And our whole goal is to help you reach your goal successfully. And we're a piece of that journey. So anything we can do to continue to help you in that second part of your academic journey beyond SCC, we want to do that. And then at the end, if you have questions about financial aid, scholarships, FAFSA, anything like that, you can meet with our financial aid office and they will be able to help you go through all of that information as well. We do also offer some other campus visit options. You can visit with us virtually like we're doing now via Zoom. We can discuss all of those admissions next steps, see the spaces, and then we also just added, it actually went live just this last week on our website. You can access our virtual tour online. So you can actually go through and tour all of our campuses and see inside the spaces, all of our brand new buildings that are going up. They're super, super awesome. And a lot of the 360 panorama shots even still have construction equipment in them. So we're gonna be getting the keys to a few different buildings, hopefully next month, which is only a few days away. So we're really excited to see those spaces and get students in them. This is a saying that I heard a long time ago. A picture is worth 1,000 words. A campus visit is worth 1,000 brochures. So let that resonate with you when you are scheduling and planning to do campus visits. Get out there, go visit us, come see us, guys. We really would love to see you and help you. We don't want you to figure it out on your own because it's a big decision. And then other big thing, social media. It's a huge, huge way to check out what students on campuses are doing and what different colleges are doing and offering and staying up to date and current with what's happening. So don't just check out SCC, check out UNK and Chadron and all of the other colleges' social media too. You won't be disappointed. So with that, I'm actually gonna kick it over to Tom.
Awesome, thank you, and good evening, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. I am Tom Knott. I work at the University of Nebraska-Kearney in Kearney, Nebraska, and my title is one of those long higher ed titles, Associate Director for Transfer Transitions, which basically means I just work with transfer students, which is awesome. I myself, just a little background, was a former transfer student. I started at Hastings College here in the state, a smaller private school, because I wanted to continue playing football and thought that that's what I wanted to do through college, and then realized I was kind of over football and ended up transferring. So I know firsthand what the experience is like, and that it can be complex and complicated and you need help. So it's awesome to be able to get to work with students going through that process. And try and make it as painless and clear and as easy to understand as possible. I'm a little bit different in my role here in that I don't work specifically with our campus visit program. That is also housed in the admissions office, and we have a campus visit coordinator who does all of that, but I do want to touch on that a little bit before I get into the things that I'm going to cover. Very similar to how things are going at Southeast and at Chadron with Rachel and Sarah. We do have physical visits happening now. Those are personal tours that incorporate everything that those ladies mentioned as well. You can add academic appointments, financial aid one-on-ones, which those are add-ons. You can choose to just tour campus, the residence halls, the facilities, the classrooms, all of that. As the transfer guy, if you're here and you're spending the time, take advantage of those things. It's very important to understand how much it's going to cost and what your aid package looks like and how your academics are going to transfer and all of those types of things. If you can't physically make it, I know COVID has complicated things for everybody. We also have the virtual option as well that's available to you anytime on our website, but we would sure love to have you on campus in person. You get a t-shirt and some meal tickets so you can eat at Chick-fil-A or Subway or check out the different cafeterias on campus. So if UNK is on your radar, we would love to have you. We are having in-person physical tours, so take advantage. With that, I am going to kind of cover as best I can, because as I mentioned, the transfer process can be complicated and it's very, very, very individual, right? More so even than first-time freshmen coming in. The path to do that is just a little bit clearer. It's more similar for everybody than the transfer process is. So I want to cover what to do, when to do it, and why you need to be doing those things. And again, these are in generalities. So these are kind of the universals that you as a transfer student, which one of the questions was, what is the definition of that? A student that has enrolled post high school anywhere else and is now looking to change institutions. So A student that was at UNK that is now thinking about finishing their degree at Shadron, that's a transfer student. Or a student that has earned their associate's degree at Southeast that is considering coming to UNK, that is a transfer student. Some students transfer once, some students transfer more than once. If you're an athlete, sometimes eligibility and coaching changes and those kinds of things can cause you to transfer more than you would like. So again, it just varies for everybody. I'm going to try and keep this as universal as possible. If you do have specific questions, fire them off and we'll answer them the best we can. With that, I'll dive in. So what to do? The first thing, obviously, I hope it's obvious, is to apply. You want to make sure that you're applying correctly. If you don't start things on the right foot, it makes it a little bit trickier. So I'm going to speak from the UNK perspective. We have one application that will ask you as you're going through it, are you a first-time freshman or are you a transfer student? If you're a transfer student, you definitely want to make sure you fill out the transfer application. You want to make sure that you're paying attention to not only are you the right admit type transfer, but are you applying for the right term? So transfer students, again, unlike first-time freshmen for the most part, can start at different points in the academic calendar. There's a fall semester, which begins typically in August for everybody. You've got a spring semester, which is what starts after Christmas break. So that's your January term. And then you've got a summer term. Some institutions will be a little bit different where summer and fall roll together. They don't have specific applications for each one. That's something you'll want to pay attention to. Make sure that you're applying correctly and that you're applying for the correct term. That will set you up from the very beginning to transition to your new institution as smooth as possible. Again, the process might be a little bit different depending on the institution you're looking at. At UNK, it's very important that you apply first and then request all of your supplemental materials. And by supplemental materials, I mean your previous transcripts. So if you're a student that was at one other institution, at UNK, we will need your high school transcript or GED, as well as the transcript from that previous or current institution. And a lot of times there's some confusion, and I totally understand it, is I applied a couple weeks ago and I haven't heard anything yet. What's the status of my application? And when I look it up, typically it's because those other documents, those supporting documents, have not been requested and received on our end yet. And I want to highlight that when I say requested, the institution you're transferring to cannot request those documents on your behalf. So that is another step for you as a transfer student. Application, once that's submitted, and we call it here your on system, we can see you in the computer and pull you up by your NUID number. You then need to have your required documents, your transcripts, also sent. And this is where it can get kind of hairy because it depends on, are you a current student? Have you been out of school for a while? On what you're going to request and when to request it. So I want to go over some terminology a little bit around transcripts. There's official transcripts, there's unofficial transcripts, there's in progress, and there's final. And those can kind of be married together. You can have a combination of all of those things. Ultimately, what every institution is going to need from you is an official final transcript. An official final transcript will allow you to be awarded any prior credit that you have earned. And that, as a transfer student, if you spent the money and dedicated the time and earned credit, you want to make sure that that transfers to the institution you're going to. So the end all be all, the most important transcript is the official final. Now, again, this is how it works at UNK. If you have applied, and let's say that you're a current student at Southeast in your last semester of your associate's degree, you want your application to be processed and you want to know that you're admitted, right? You want to know that as soon as possible. The way to do that, and here comes kind of the confusion around transcripts, is you can have your unofficial in progress or your official in progress. And the difference between unofficial and official means if something is unofficial, it came from you. You delivered the transcript, you emailed it, you sent a copy. It didn't come from a transcript delivery service. The most commonly used is Parchment, and it didn't come from the institution itself. It needs to come from one of those two things to be considered official. You can provide a copy of your transcript for the purposes of completing your application, but that will not allow you to be awarded transfer credit. So put that in your mind. Official finals are the golden transcript that will get you your transfer credit. But for the purposes of completing your app and knowing that you're admitted and you can go to UNK or Chadron, wherever it might be, you need a transcript to accompany your application. Orientation and advising, those types of things, at least at UNK, every new transfer student, every new student is required to go through an orientation. Before you can sign up or attend, you must be an admitted student. So that goes back to the apply and make sure your documents are on hand so that you can attend that orientation, at which is a more kind of in-depth experience than just the campus visit. That is another way to think about it, is an enrollment day. You will come, you will be oriented to the university, learn about Canvas and the specific institutional portal. At UNK, we use MyBlue. So you understand all of those things. And the most exciting and really the reason students come to that day is to sit down with your advisor and figure out your course schedule, what you have left, what requirements you have, what classes you're going to be taking next semester. But none of that can happen if you haven't done the application and the transcript request appropriately and on time. So what you need to do above all of that, the big umbrella, right, is understand the timeline. Am I starting in a spring semester? Am I starting in the fall? Am I currently enrolled somewhere and need to provide in-progress transcripts? Have I been at, I work with students that have been at Metro for a little while and then went to Westland and then some classes at Southeast and are now coming to UNK. That's a lot of transcripts to get a hold of. So knowing when you need to be admitted because you want to start in January or you want to start in the summer helps you to know how quickly you need to be requesting those transcripts and having them sent and when I should apply and all of those other things. So that kind of leads us into the when to do it, when to do these things. And this, again, it's hard to keep things universal because it depends on you, the student, what your particular plan is. So as I mentioned before, spring, fall, and summer are the three different terms that UNK uses and are pretty general across the board. So if you know when you're intending to start, that should help you know when to apply, when to request documents, and when to be looking for orientation information and those kinds of things. The other thing that's a little tricky for transfer students sometimes is the scholarship application deadlines and the awarding. At UNK, we're front loaded. So if you're a fall transfer student going to start with us in August, you have access to all of our general transfer student scholarships. Spring starts a little bit less so. If there are scholarship dollars left and you qualify for scholarships, those will be awarded. The nice thing is that your application for admission is also your application for scholarships. There are some that have specific or unique applications, and you can look those up on our website. But for the most part, our transfer scholarships, if you're applied and admitted as a transfer student, you're going to be reviewed for those and awarded those scholarships. But it's not like that everywhere. And that again comes back to depending on where you're looking to go, you need to do that research yourself. You need to connect with financial aid, or you need to call your transfer specialist at that institution and figure out, is there a deadline? What's available to me? What are the requirements? A lot of our requirements at UNK are based on transfer GPA. So your cumulative transfer GPA, if you've been at a couple different institutions, it's gonna sum those together and look at your transfer GPA and the number of transfer credits completed. Our baseline is around 45 credit hours for most of our scholarships, not all of them, but most of them. So those are some important things to know, and that will vary depending on the institution you're looking at. So if you are someone that knows, I'm going to need a high level of aid, or school's not a reality for me unless I can cash in on some scholarships, the sooner you can have an idea of when you want to start, where you want to start, and what those deadlines and requirements are, the better off you are to figure out that financial piece. And that's hugely important, as we all know.
I actually have a couple questions that came in.
Yeah.
There's a student that is looking to get a bachelor's degree and planning on attending UNL, where some of the classes that they're going to be taking will be taken at SCC or a community college. And they were wondering if they could use scholarships or grants at both schools or just at one.
So that's going to depend on probably the grant that's received or the scholarship that's received. If you're a co-enrolled student, so if you're a student that's taking classes at two different institutions at the same time, the odds of being able to do that are probably a little bit better. You will have filled out, or at least the way we would have done it here is you would have filled out a co-enrollment form. One institution for federal aid purposes, financial aid purposes, will be the home institution. I might have my vocabulary messed up here. And the other one will be the host institution. And if there are available funds or excess funds after the home institution's bill has been taken care of, that can be applied to the host institution. So for example, if a student was co-enrolled here at UNK and their UNK bill was paid and they were also taking classes down the road at CCC, Central Community College, they could then use that funding to pay all of or a portion of their Central Community College bill. But I will say, and I always say this when it comes to money, I am definitely not the money guy. So that what were the schools, Rachel? UNL and
UNL and SCC.
Yeah, so that is a perfect example of, that's a very specific question that there's definitely a very specific answer to. You want to connect with the financial aid office on whatever we'll call it your home institution, wherever you're taking the most credit right now. I would check there first, check with their financial aid office. You might also have to check with the other office as well.
Okay. And I did have one other question come in as far as transferring from the University of Nebraska system. So if a student were to transfer from UNO to UNL or UNL to UNK, how does that work?
Yeah, that is actually a little bit easier. And I'm glad somebody asked that because I would have forgot to bring it up. If you are currently enrolled at one of the university system schools, you complete a change of campus form, which can be searched on any of our websites. It's the same form for everybody. But what that does is, earlier I mentioned we can't request anything on behalf of the student. This is a little bit of a workaround there. You can complete that form and it notifies your current institution, so we'll say Lincoln in this case, that you are transferring to UNO in Omaha, and their registrar's office will compile all of your prior transcripts, so everything you had to submit to that institution in order to be a student. They'll put that all together, high school or GED, any other, if you took college credit while you were in high school and you have a Westland transcript that you submitted to them as well, they put all of that together, including their UNL transcript, and send that to UNO. So that's kind of your one-stop shop if you're a student that's transferring within the UN system. Apply, then complete your change of campus form. Again, you can use the search bar in any of the UNL, UNO, UNK web pages, and that should be the first thing that pops up, and that will take care of everything for you. Good question. I'm glad somebody asked that. I would have forgotten. Let me see what else I've got here. When to do it. We've talked about terms and scholarships and requirements a little bit. And then why to do it. I think we've all, Sarah, I, and Rachel have touched on it. You know, you don't know what you don't know. And you need to visit these places. And then if you're serious about them, you need to, we call it get on system, get on their radar, submit an application so that when you call financial aid, they can look you up and say, you know, we can't answer that question yet because we don't have your FAFSA on file, which is probably something I should mention as part of, look at that, I had it on the slide and forgot. So FAFSA is a lot like a transcript. If you're somebody that's going to need any type of federal financial aid, your institution, your financial aid office at the institution you're looking at is going to need your FAFSA information. At UNK, if you go to our financial aid page, they've got a tile right there that tells you what your FAFSA is and how to submit it and what our school code is. once they have that, they can be a million times more helpful to you than if you just called in and said, hey, I'm a student, fill in the blank institution. I'm wondering what it's going to cost me to be a full-time student at UNK. They can talk to you generally, of course, and say, well, this is what it is credit hour. And if you took 12 credit hours, they can tell you that, but that's not the answer you're looking for, right? You want to know dollars and cents. What's it going to cost to be a student there? So that is totally dependent on your FAFSA information. Make sure that you submit that after you've been admitted is how we do it at UNK. So apply, admitted, submit your FAFSA. Back to the kind of why to do things. Oh, COVID has obviously complicated everything. So typically sooner is better than later, always, not necessarily the case for transfer students. For example, let's say you're somebody right now that is thinking about starting fall of 21, okay? So we've still got the spring semester to come and the summer semester. You can apply and you could be admitted at UNK, but there's not a lot else that's going to happen for a couple of months. Orientation, the class schedule for fall of 21 isn't finalized yet, so there isn't a lot of concrete, what classes am I going to take? What's my schedule going to look like? Can I talk to an advisor? It's good to be admitted, but I know it's frustrating sometimes. It's kind of that hurry up and wait. You've done everything you can do, and now you just got to kind of wait until the school year progresses a little bit. So be in tune with where the academic calendar is currently in relation to when you're thinking of starting. You definitely don't want to wait until, the end of the summer if you're trying to start in August, but you have some time between now and then. So keep that in mind as well, that there is kind of a too early to be doing some of these things for transfer. There's definitely a too late. If you're going to do one or the other, be on the early end of transfer, especially now with COVID, and things might be moving a little bit slower. Processes are a little bit different. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about your transfer process. As I've said several times, the answers to your questions are very unique to you. You might be a student that has spent 4 years doing undergrad work at 3 different institutions. That's going to look very different than somebody that just finished their first fall semester after their senior year of high school and they're transferring somewhere new. That will be different. The conversations will be different. The answers will be different. And then really, school is a huge investment, not just of your time, but financially as well. So you want to definitely make sure that you're doing all of the things that you can do to gather as much information as possible so that the next place you land is the place that you can finish. Because it's going to take time, it's going to take money, and you want to enjoy your time doing it. So follow these steps. I know I bounced around a little bit, but generally speaking, if you apply correctly and you apply on time and you're aware of what documents need to accompany your application, you submit your FAFSA information so you can know financially what things are going to look like, and then are aware of, as an admitted student, what is my orientation requirement? Almost every institution is going to have one, and almost every institution is going to require you to be admitted. If you can do those things, then the process is going to be as simple as possible for you. And if you're having trouble with those things, this last little piece I have is just resources. And these are things that I think we all know, but sometimes you just need to hear it again. There is more information than you could possibly want on almost every institution's webpage. Visit the web pages of the schools that you're thinking about. Bounce around, check out different stuff. Make sure they have I'm always blown away. Make sure they have the programs that you're interested in. Know what those look like so you can ask specific questions about them. Our department pages have all of the department faculty and staff and chairs contact information so you can reach out to them directly to get questions answered. Public transfer guides. So this is one that I definitely want to drive home. There's a lot you can do to figure out how your credit's going to transfer. At UNK, we have a publicly posted transfer guide on our webpage that you could look up Southeast, and there are, I think there's like 15 different pages of, It's A to Z alphabetical of art 1010 is equivalent to art 102 or whatever it might be at UNK. You yourself as a student, you know what you've taken. You know what grades you've earned. Most places you're going to need a C or better. You need to have earned a C in the class for that class to be transferable. You can look that up and say, I took art, I took math, I took this English. These things are done at UNK. And then you visit the department page that has, here's the classes required for business administration. Well, I know I've got that done, that done, that done, that done. You can do a lot of that on your own. That's not to say that you can't also have somebody like myself double check it for you, but I'm going to use that same tool. That's what I use to give you an unofficial evaluation. So check out the transfer guides, make sure you kind of understand that, and that adds much more meaning to the conversation that you then have with an advisor or with somebody like myself. Education Quest just in general is a great resource for students, so take advantage of them. Transfer counselors, recruiters, specialists, campus visit coordinators, the panel here today, we would be examples of people that if you have transfer questions and you're not sure where to go, we might not be the right person, but I promise you I know who the right person is, and I'll get you there. And I think Rachel and Sarah would say the same thing. And I think that's kind of it for me. I know that was a lot and it was very 30,000 foot view, but hopefully that is helpful.
And Tom, we do have a question. What opportunities does UNK offer for someone who is planning on a pre-med path? What is the percent of pre-med undergraduate that get into medical school?
Okay, so I can't tell you the exact percentage. That is posted on our health sciences webpage. So if you just go to unk.edu, type in health sciences, you can find that statistical information. I can talk to you a little bit about the pre-med track. So if you're pre-professional anything, so UNK has a wide variety of pre-professional programs. Medicine would be one of them. You are not going to earn your medical license, your medical degree from UNK, right? That's the pre. So our students would come in, most would do something that aligns with that, biology or something in the natural science field. And as part of that, you have a framework of courses that make up this pre-med track. You complete your 4-year, we'll just say comprehensive biology degree, and you complete your pre-med requirements. You can then apply to our partnerships with UNMC. But that doesn't mean that that's where you have to go. We have UNMC here on our campus. They've got their own building for nursing and all kinds of other things. But if you're somewhere else and you're completing pre-med or you've got it completed, it's UNK. If you've already got your bachelor's, you're probably already looking at the professional school. So it depends on where you're at in the process as to whether or not, and I might be a bad transfer recruiter because I'm really honest with students. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense to transfer. If you're done with that or about to be done with that somewhere else and professional school is the next thing, then it might not make sense to come to UNK. That happens a lot with nursing. Somebody's completed the nursing program or the pre-nursing program at Central, for example. Well, that's really similar to UNK's program. If you're someone that wants to come in and complete a bachelor's as part of, add in the pre-nursing into that bachelor's degree, then UNK would make sense. But if you're just going to do your two years of pre-nursing requirements and then go to professional nursing school, UNK doesn't really feel a need for you. So I have that conversation with students a lot as well. Peggy Abels is the name of the gal that's the director of our health sciences office, health sciences department, and she would be a tremendous resource for anybody that's thinking anything pre-professional at UNK. Any other questions rolling in?
Not as of right now. And yeah, if anybody has any questions about any of our specific schools or programs or anything like that, you can drop those in the Q&A. We'd be happy to answer any of those questions.
All right, we have a few more minutes. So I'll just give you, I guess you can stop sharing your screen for a second if you would, Sarah. Oh, fantastic. Well, look at you. All right. And I'll just kind of give this kind of as a kind of a wrap up. But again, thanks Tom and Rachel and Sarah for your time. You guys are amazing. You guys did a fantastic job. And the questions were really pointy, right on point. This presentation is going to be on the Education Quest site for the entire fall season. So if you know someone who missed it or should have, who couldn't get in, just let them know that they can go in and click on the link in about 48 hours and they'll be able to see the whole presentation. Also, you guys be sure to explore the college options on our virtual college fair site. We have many interactive college booths where you can watch videos, download material, and even chat live with admissions representatives. You will find that some of the booths even have a schedule of their own live presentations. So make sure you visit the college fair today and to take advantage of some of those experiences. Sarah, do we have any more questions before we get out? Rachel?
There was one question that asked, can you transfer SCC credits to UNL? And the answer is yes, depending on what classes they are, of course. So that's why it's really important to talk to the registration office, to talk to the college advisors or the transfer advisors, and those transfer guides that Tom talked about. We work with those other institutions to figure out what classes transfer and what they transfer in as to all of the different schools. So a lot of SCC's classes do transfer to UNL. Again, it's going to depend on what class it is and what program you are going into at that other school too.
And if I can really quick, that's something I wanted to mention is the vocabulary of how you ask questions. So the question, will my credits transfer? The answer is almost always yes, okay? Now, the question you want to ask is how are my credits going to transfer relative to this degree program that I'm interested in? Because those are two very different things. At UNK, you'll have a degree audit and your prior institution, maybe you transferred and everything transferred, but it's not counting towards any of the specific requirements of the degree that you're interested in. So somebody telling you, yes, your credit will transfer doesn't really help you out if it doesn't transfer to the business degree you're pursuing or the biology degree you're pursuing. So if I could encourage you, when you ask those questions, ask them, are my credits going to transfer relative to this particular degree, or can you help me figure that out? And that's a combination, again, of those transfer guides, the department guides, or the program guides at the institution you're looking at, and then just knowing who to reach out to. If that's too much or you don't want to figure that out, that's fine. I do that. There's people that do that. So find the person, but know what program you're looking at and have copies or a list of your prior credit, because we can't look at that if we don't already have a transcript. So some things to keep in mind there, as well as there's some materials required there, and you kind of need to know what program you're looking at as well.
Okay, and to kind of go off of that a little bit too, even students in high school that are taking dual credit too. I just had a student I was working with last week that has a ton of credit. Like, quite honestly, when the student graduates in May as a senior, will have half of an associate's degree done already. That's pretty phenomenal. So what we look at then during the admissions process is what those classes are, what that program is that student wants to do, and we figure out if those are necessary. So quite honestly, this student was actually pre-signed up to take 3 college courses, dual credit courses that are not necessary for our degree here at SCC. So if that student, if I were doing them justice, I would say don't take those courses because you don't need them for our degree. If you plan to transfer to a 4-year school, yes, you will need them. But if you don't plan to transfer, You don't. So it's gonna vary on what your future plans are, what program it is, what school, because we are all different and we all take credit differently, and sometimes what we take everybody else takes or does not take, and vice versa. So it really is, it's like playing darts in the dark as far as transferring credit. So do yourself a favor and have those conversations. If you're a senior, do it now. If you're looking to transfer next semester, do it now. Have those conversations ahead of time. Don't waste your time and money taking classes you don't need.